had finished her college and wondering what to do. She also, like me, didn't find much interest in masters. We were pretty similar on that score. And one fine day when I came back from office in Delhi, she told me, guess who I talked to today? I had a phone call with Maneka Gandhi, who was then the very active, sort of politically active wife of Sanjay Gandhi, and was running this magazine called Surya. And she has given me an assignment to cover the demolition of Jhuggi Jhopri in Tughlakabad. So my wife took our car, took one of her college friends and covered that. And soon thereafter, Maneka put her on the rolls of Surya, and my wife went on to become executive editor of Surya after Maneka's little boy was born. And soon after 1980, Sanjay Gandhi died in that tragic plane crash. Not so tragic because he was pretty foolish to do aerobatics, which he was sort of not very conversant with. And there was some talk of my father being made a governor. And before all that happened, Mrs. Gandhi sent him as a delegate to the UN General Assembly. And when he stayed in New York attending the GA at the UN, September to December 1980. And at the first opportunity, he phoned me and asked me and my wife to join him there. Incidentally, I had always had a great interest, almost a love affair, with the US since I was a kid. And he told my mother, must get Babu over to his dream country. And I and my wife, we got our visa and we landed up in New York, stayed in Manhattan at the Beverly Hotel in Lexington Avenue and 50th in the heart of Manhattan, walking distance from the UN building. And it was a wonderful stay. I had a short stay. We stayed with him for about 3 weeks, traveled around, and I went to Harvard University to see Harvard University, also Kennedy's Memorial at the University of Massachusetts. Harvard, where I was supposed to go but didn't, because events didn't go according to plan. And the day I was coming back, it was 4th December 1980, we were being driven to the airport, Kennedy Airport, from the hotel in the Indian Mission car. The sun was setting and I was looking back nostalgically at the Hudson River and the Manhattan Bridge, thinking to myself, will I ever come back here again? And my dad looked at me and said, don't worry, you will have many occasions to come back here to this country. Those were prophetic words. 20 years later, I not only came back, I had a residence there, owned property there, became a green card holder. Thanks to my wife, though, I'll come to that later. But then when we came back, by that time, our factory, Calcutta factory, had been sold. We were fortunate to find a buyer. My dad was free to do other things now. He was sort of, didn't have that responsibility anymore. And he was offered an ambassadorship. This was between Jordan and Turkey. I advised him to take Turkey, being a better place, closer proximity to Europe, a NATO country. So he started his stint as an ambassador, 1981 to 84. Those 3 years were good times because
এগুলো সব আমার বাগানের ফুল, ছাদের বাগান। হ্যাঁ, ওই যে ফুলগুলো দেখছো না, ওগুলো আমার বাগানের ফুল, আজকেই তুলে নিচ্ছি। বাগান মানে জানো, এগুলো সব আমার নিজের ডেকোরেশন, নিজেই সাজিয়েছি, কোনো আর্কিটেক্ট এসে করে না। ড্রয়িং হয়ে গেছে তো নিচে কোথায় তুলো? নিচে তো সবই তোলা। তুমি কতক্ষণ ধরে ছবি তুলছো বলো তো?
আমি সকালবেলা থেকে, আমরা এসেছি 11:30, 11:30 থেকে ছবি তুলছি।
তোমার ছবি তুলে যাচ্ছে।
আচ্ছা, এই ঘরটা যে আপনি একা একা সাজান, আপনার কষ্ট হয় না এই গোটা ঘরটা একা একা সাজাতে?
একা একা থাকতে
সাজাতে
না না না, সব করেছি আমি। একা একা করলে ভালো হয়। ইউ নো হোয়াট ইউ আর গোয়িং টু ডু। 10 জনে থাকলে তো নানান রকম, তোমাকে এটা বলবে, এটা বলবে, সেটা বলবে।
রাইট।
Yeah, we were on the years of the ambassadorship, and those were good times. In many ways, my father was more relaxed in this assignment than his ministerial days, where there was the pressure of the problems of the factory, the political problems, the upheaval in West Bengal, the upheaval even in central politics. These were much better times, much better times. It was easier work. It suited his temperament. And that was from 1981 to 84. But all the time we knew that all good things come to an end. In the meantime, my little daughter was born after 7 years of marriage. She was born in August 82. And when she was 7 months old, she flew with us to Ankara, to my father's residence in Turkey. She couldn't even sit on the plane. She traveled in a bassinet. She was lying down. And there are some pictures of her in Turkey, in Istanbul, with the Dalai Lama. She was barely 1 year old then. This was a visit from the Dalai Lama. My daughter's face hasn't changed much. To me, she looks still the same as she looked then. That's my wife with her mother. And by the time this came around, July 1984, my father had to come back. And things were heading for somehow again, these are all premonition. In the start of the new year of 1984, Mrs. Gandhi wrote a personal long letter to my father that she was facing the new year with some trepidation. Those words proved to be prophetic. My father had come back to India after completing his assignment in July, and at that time the turmoil in Punjab was at its height. The Khalistan movement, Bhindranwale. A Frankenstein had been created, somewhat like the Taliban in Afghanistan these days. And when the Frankenstein gets out of control, the Frankenstein attacks its creator. And that's what happened. Mrs. Gandhi was shot brutally in her official residence on 31st of October 1984. We lived pretty close to the PM's house in number 1 Safdarjung Road. We lived pretty close. And the crowds all over parts of Delhi. There was rioting. Many shops owned by Sikhs were being attacked. And we wanted to go, sort of bid her a final goodbye. And I said, how do we go? The security will be not only tight, it will be difficult to. But we took a chance. I said, let's make it. So he and I went, and there was the catafalque, Prime Minister's body lying there. We were all able to make it. And with her death, we knew the writing was on the wall. That any other political aspirations that my father may have had ended with the demise of Mrs. Gandhi. Soon thereafter, he didn't survive long after that. There was the cancer eating up in the inside, which we didn't know. And a year later, he passed away himself, October of 1985. One instruction that he left me almost practically on his deathbed is never to give up the Delhi base.
कलम है हम लोग घर में कलम है.
With his demise, I sort of began to reassess my own future, both from the business angle and from the political angle, because from a very young age I had this abiding interest in politics, but I was also conscious of the fact that the scenario had changed drastically from my grandfather's time and my father's time, and I questioned myself how much I would be able to fit into this changed scenario. And from the business angle, by that time the Calcutta factory had been sold off. Later on it died a natural death. The tea gardens had been sold off a long time back, but my factory in Ghaziabad was still working, more or less professionally managed, and a debt-free company. So it didn't sort of create any problems for me. As events unfolded, a new party was born called Janata Dal, which sort of spun off from many discontented elements from the communists in Rajiv Gandhi's time. And one man, that my wife always told me that I never had a mentor. My father was lucky to have a mentor in Otullo Ghosh. My wife in her work, I'll come to that later, was lucky to have a mentor in William J. Drayton. I never had a mentor. A person who came close to being a mentor, not fully though, was Mr. Ashok Sen. And by that time I had also established some rapport with the powers that be in the CPM and the Janata Dal. They were sort of combining at the national level, and it seemed a good fit. And I thought I could have a working relationship with the communists. I always admired Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, that historic handshake with Chairman Mao. So I thought, given my anti-communist leanings, I could strike a working relationship with the communists by being a part of the Janata Dal. So I became associated with the Janata Dal, but things moved very fast. The elections took place in '89. There was a split in the Janata Dal. Ashok Sen went his way. I had to go my way, remaining with the parent party. And as things gradually worked out, although later on I became involved with George Fernandez and the Samta party, I became president of that party. I was in the national executive. I found myself that given the way the political system, the way the political parties, the way the personalities of these parties functioned, I was a misfit. So gradually I drifted away from that. And our lives changed also. As I said, from a very young age, I have this fascination with America, fascination with America's democracy, and because of my wife's association with the non-profit that she headed, she became president of the non-profit in 2001. My father's words became that prophecy came true, that I would go back over and over again. So that changed our life. And my wife did a very savvy thing. When she went to America, she didn't rent the property, she bought the property. I think that was a very savvy move. So that sort of steered my life in a different direction altogether. And that's how it stands. And my daughter, she had her post-school education, did a bachelor's in America, Marymount University. She did a master's also in America from Marymount University. And that gave her a good education. We made full use of our stint there. And yeah, these are some of our reminiscences from life in Ankara. And of course that's my father's ministerial days, not Ankara. Morarji, but then Deputy Prime Minister. These are the ambassadors from all West European countries in a conference with Mrs. Gandhi. That side. That's my grandfather. My father in his young days with his brother and sister. Those are all the siblings. Taking over from the Council of Ministers the second time.
Akbar.
That's him taking the oath of office the second time, June 1970.
Roland.
Addressing the UNGA, December 1980. This is an inspection tour of Southeastern Railway. Meetings with officers. President Zia of Pakistan presenting credentials, President Kenan Evren of Turkey. Zia, Ambassador of Republic of China. President Evren of Turkey. President Nicolae Ceausescu of Romania. These are his ministerial days. He was the minister in waiting when the Sri Lankan Prime Minister came. This is a cabinet meeting. Coming out of Rashtrapati Bhavan with the President of Sri Lanka and Indian Prime Minister. At the UN. That's Brajesh Mishra, that's Foreign Minister Narasimha Rao, future Prime Minister. My father's cabinet, first cabinet minister C.M. Punacha, Chairman Railway Board, Khandelwal. Vice President V.V. Giri, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. As we talk today, beginning of 2009, we are on the threshold of another election and therefore another uncertainty. I feel our parties are as immature, minus the Congress Party. I would put the Congress Party on a different pedestal. The other parties are as immature as the parties of Bangladesh or Pakistan, with very narrow vision, very localized sphere of influence, or very narrow base of support. I only hope that given the grim economic conditions, the recession that the world faces, possibly the worst recession since the Great Depression of the 1930s, we will have some leadership with some sagacity to tackle these problems, which are much more serious than people realize. On a personal level, I have given up running industries, which I did for many years. Paper mills, tea gardens, engineering industries. We had Japanese collaboration with 2 Japanese companies. And from those, the proceeds from those investments, I have gone into the sphere of venture capital, been associated with many startups in information technology and some import and export business. Very recently, my only daughter, who I said hasn't, to me she's still a baby, from the photograph that we saw with the Dalai Lama. She has got married. I have to a very nice young man, and they are mostly in Delhi. And I'm still in the process of putting up her pictures, but there she is in her bridal finery with her mother. Got married just about 2 months back. And one thing I'd like to mention here when I talk to mentors, that one personality, one individual outside my immediate family who was instrumental in whatever we became, whatever the prominence that my family had at the state level, at the central level, finally even at the international level. We owe a debt of gratitude to one man, and that is Mr. Ghosh. And today, in hindsight, I feel that we got a lot from him. We were at the receiving end. We could have given back more. That's one little feeling of regret I sometimes have, that He really made us. This man didn't ask for anything in return.